Hello everyone. This is the 26th part of the story, Pērcy Jackson, the God of Magic. Chapter 126. With Zeus on the move to get me as soon as possible, I had to act fast, and with the time I had my options were quite limited. I either figured out how to fully awaken the dormant monster within me, aka my outer power, or, well, option B, consuming some extra juicy souls to increase my power. And with that option, one soul in particular came to mind, one that was begging to be devoured, the soul of Kronos. As of now he was incomplete, weak, and vulnerable, the perfect prey for my hunt. And while consuming his incomplete state would not exactly increase my power by a lot, it would still help, because consuming his consciousness, this in turn would allow me to consume the other parts of his power if I ever encountered them. Which in all honesty it wasn't a bad idea at all. Not only I would get stronger and would control over the godly domain of time, but I would also get rid of the nuisance Kronos represented forever. Now the question was, how to find him? And the answer to that conundrum was simple. To find Kronos I would have to find Luke first, the bastard that sent me to Tartarus and made me suffer more than anyone has done so far. But I suppose I have to thank him in a way. No matter how much I hate him, he showed me the true colors of those I trusted. And the true colors of Olympus. That was not to say I wasn't going to kill him anyways. If I wanted to find Kronos I would have to find him, which wasn't that easy whatsoever. Kronos with his limited power was keeping his little vessel out of all godly sight, and that included me. Or so I originally thought, you see. While Luke can most definitely hide from me with the help of his Titan sugar daddy, I had other means to find him, like the all-seeing eye spell. Now this spell alone can't see through the protection of God, but when used through an already powerful all-seeing being like Heimdall with the help of two powerful mages fueling the spell, like me and Odin, well, let's just say I have to go to Florida and personally thank Luke for his service to my cause. Yep, Luke was currently hiding in Boca Raton, Florida, and had no idea I was about to drop hell on him. The little pleasures in life, sleeping, playing with bubble wrap, and knowing you are about to enact revenge upon the bastard that sent your ass to a literal nightmare. As soon as I knew where Luke was, I teleported to him, and needless to say I shocked the poor bastard. Happy to see me? I smiled, almost hissing the words out of my mouth. I challenge you to a duel of equal terms. Luke shouted in reply. Boy was he jumpy. If you truly call yourself a warrior, then you will fight me on equal terms. Aren't you adorable? I pinched his cheeks mockingly. I'm no warrior, boy, I'm a god, and like most, I don't ever drop a grudge. I chuckled, seeing in his eyes fear like never before. What a delightful sight. Now where is your sugar daddy? Luke looked me for a second, pondering what to do before he breathed out and said, he is with Atlas. Oh, I clicked my tongue in disappointment. Maybe I had been too hasty. If I had only waited a bit longer, Kronos would have eventually fused with his little vessel. Oh well. He is discussing his war plans with Atlas, Luke elaborated. He knows you're a threat, so he is planning to target Hestia. He knows the only way to control you is through her. Well, this was rather unexpected. He was being very open with the information about his boss, and talking about his boss. If Kronos thought he was ever gonna get anywhere close to Hestia, he had another thing coming. Why are you telling me this? I asked him, wondering if this was his pathetic attempt to get some mercy on my part. I will die. There is nothing I can do to stop you from killing me. I know that, Luke chuckled. I also know you started a rebellion against the rule of Zeus, so why try to hide anything from you? In the end, whether we like it or not, our ultimate goals align, the end of the current rule of Olympus. I laughed. Quite poetic of you. I sighed. Oh well, I guess you are right. Anything else I should know? He not only plans to control you through Hestia, Luke muttered, he thinks of you, one of his possible vessels. With me being option A and you being option B, not gonna lie, kinda felt insulted he thought of Luke as option A. I most definitely deserved a higher rank on that list. Then again, B was fitting. because I was going to beat his ass. I see, I sighed as I pointed my hand at him. And then it clicked me, why kill him when I can make his demise be more poetic? After all, it's like they say, he who lives by the sword will die by the sword, you know what? I think I can make this a bit more interesting, I smiled. What? Luke inquired, his fear mixing with doubt. I mean, what would I accomplish killing you here? Nothing. I chuckled, I have a much better idea, a poetic one at that. At that I snapped my finger, creating a portal to the place I had suffered the most. Tartarus, you plan to send me down there? Luke muttered in fear, taking a few steps back. Aren't you a smart one? I chuckled, delighted to see his reaction. Oh, and before I forget, I approached the demigod and placed a hand on his hand, engraving a deadly curse on his body. The curse I just placed on you will kill you if you talk with any titan or god inside or outside your new home, and believe me, you don't want this curse to kill you, unless you like the feeling of every organ violently exploding. I'd rather die, just kill me. Luke growled, is desperation truly pathetic? You don't have a vote, I shot back, pushing him into the same nightmare he pushed me once. Truly poetic, am I right? Chapter 127. With Luke out of the picture, I had two options to consider in how to proceed with my current situation. Option A. Invest all my time and resources on finding and dealing with Kronos swiftly before he actually becomes a threat. Or Option B. Putting the Titan of Time aside for the moment being, because in all technicality he is currently harmless, with his powers being sealed and stuff. Option B it is. It was, after all, the best path I could take right now. I mean, while killing Kronos right now should be super easy, I had no doubt the Titan King by now knows I eliminated his future meat suit, and it's most likely playing it safe for the time being, hiding until he feels I am not hunting him. So, for the time being, I had to focus on Zeus as my sole priority. Now the question was how to deal with him. Zeus was still above me in terms of both power and experience, not idea by how much, but he was, and to add some chocolate over that cake, he also had a vastly superior army under him. In short, facing him head-on would lead to my inevitable demise. Then again, there were other ways to kill a king and his kingdom, like weakening his army for example, by taking his aces one by one. Hera, Ares, Apollo, Artemis, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, and maybe Poseidon were just one of the few I knew I had to take care of if I wanted to win the war. Starting with Ares, the most problematic of them all, his realm was too powerful to left unchecked during a holy war. The gods in general were only as powerful as their realms of control, meaning for example, that in times of peace the gods connected to this realm would grow in power, and so, because of what was about to happen, I had to eliminate Ares. I could only imagine how strong he would become, the god of war during a three-way holy war. In fact, because of this there was a strong possibility that Ares would become an even greater threat than Zeus in terms of raw power. And I could not allow that to happen, so Ares had to die before I did anything else. So as to avoid this, my next target was Ares, who in all honesty I already had a few reasons to target. Him benefiting from the war was just the cherry that fucked the glass. Now, where are you, Ares? I muttered, as I searched the entire earth for his presence with my magic. Unlike Luke, Ares had no reason to hide. Well, he did, but he was too prideful to admit I represented a threat. His two functional brain cells would never process such a thing. So with that in mind, I searched every little corner of the world, one by one, until eventually my efforts were rewarded with his location. Ares was in Colombia. Colombia, I bummed. I guess I could also take a bite from there. Lovely place, haven't been there in a lifetime. I snorted at that. Last time I was in Colombia was during of my few operations. Lovely people, lovely food, lovely ladies. Too bad I was bedridden. Like I did with Luke, I teleported to Ares, but unlike with Luke, I made sure he was, 1. Alone so that other gods would interfere in our battle. 2. That there were no magical traps waiting for my ass to jump at him. And 3. How powerful he was. Well, for one, he was alone, having an orgy with 10 Colombian women and men, he fucking and getting fucked. Good for him. 2. There were no traps, except for all the jizz on the floor and what I assume was chocolate. I won't check if it is. Anyway, that alone was more than enough to keep me out of that room.
Ew.
And 3, he was indeed stronger, meaning the beginnings of this war were already affecting him, showing that it was indeed a good call to target him first. Well, second if you count Priapus, well, third if you count Dionysus, fourth if you count Luke. All right. He was in the top 5 and that's what matters. Ares, I greeted as I entered the room floating on a hazmat suit, for obvious reasons, Liz. Is that a fucking hazmat suit? Ares inquired in shock. There is an abnormal amount of cum on the floor, and what I assume it's chocolate, I scoffed. If you think I will enter this STD farm unprotected, no pun intended, you are an idiot.
Yeah.
That's not chocolate, Ares chuckled. God, am I going to enjoy killing him? I will enjoy this more than I should, I muttered. So, you finally came to have that ass tossed? Ares smirked, getting his, you know what, out of one of the individuals present. I'm still fully charged, so come get it. He pointed to his. Oh hell no. I hope this last orgy was worth it, I chuckled bitterly, because it will be the last time you toss anything whatsoever. That is a bold statement for someone who so far has done nothing but hiding, Ares grinned cockily, but by all means, go ahead. I'm all up for foreplay. I can't wait to see, where do the jokes end, and your despair begins. I chuckled as I snapped my fingers, teleporting us to a desolate location, where no one would interfere. Last time we fought, I had to abide by the divine rules of Zeus, but you aren't a demigod any longer, so I don't have to hold back at all, Ares laughed, as his clothes changed from not having any to being fully armored with his symbol of power at hand. Last time we fought, I was a kid, a soldier of Olympus, naive, happy, stupid, but now I am a god, a king, I smiled, summoning my weapon and Gryamore, so bow. Chapter 128. Ares yelled, raising his fists above his head as a sickly blood-red aura appeared around him. And I had to admit, this was going to be hard. His aura was wild, filled with bloodlust as it extended in every direction. We shall see who shall bow. He declared with a mad grin, his power ever growing. I had definitely made the right choice coming after him. But even under his overwhelming power, I merely smiled. For some reason I was glad to see this amazing show force. I think a part of me was enjoying the challenge Ares represented, that I would get to push myself beyond I have ever did before. Pretty sure it will be you, I grinned, levitating my weapon behind me while I activated one of its aspects. Ares smiled at that, then flung his arms in sweeping motion, shooting blood-red energy blasts around him in every direction. These attacks were easy to avoid, and this made me wonder, what was he trying to accomplish? That's enough warm-up, time to end your little parade of idiotic traitors. Ares barked in laughter, rushing at me. Finally. I inwardly chuckled while powering up to match his current power. Ares reached me in no time and with a sadistic smile tried to strike my face with all his strength using his right fist. While powerful, he was painfully predictable and very straightforward, so it was no surprise when I easily dodged his attack by jumping over the god of war whose attack destroyed a mountain behind me. Ares growled as he turned as quickly as he could to face me once again, with the clear intention to try and attack me once more. But while it was clear in terms of physical strength he was stronger by a decent margin, I was faster, and when his second attack came, I smiled as I slipped under his attack and flung a mana-powered punch to his face. Our exchange of attacks continued following these patterns, with me capitalizing on my speed, pushing the battle to my own terms. This tactical advantage, however, didn't last long, because out of nowhere, Ares increased his power once more with a violent scream. Gaining not only more power, but more speed, and thanks to that he managed to grab me by the arms. As I was about to hit him once more, with a smile Ares looked at me in the eyes, before he proceeded to slam my face to his knee repeatedly. Much to his shock, his attacks weren't having any effect. Reverse, I muttered, and in a bright flash Ares was flung across the earth like a rag doll. Wow, am I glad. I used my weapon to neutralize your attacks, I whistled. A weapon that absorbs physical attacks, Ares laughed. Good, otherwise, this wouldn't be fun. At that his power doubled once more, as he grew in size, but not quite reaching his divine form. You are not the only one who has been holding back, I grinned as my aura took on a more violent aspect as my power grew. Now instead of my normal blue aura, the one I was currently projecting was now green with black edges around, emanating the power I had awoken in hell. The outer. Ares took a step back, hesitation crawling down his spine. No wonder you are able to match me. Fun. This is so fun. However, his hesitation didn't last long, and it was soon replaced with sick joy. You are one piece of work, aren't ya? I sighed, getting into position. A masterpiece, Ares laughed. Athena point of view. Ares and Adam were facing each other out of Zeus's sight, and by the looks of it, Ares had the power advantage in terms of experience. What I meant by that was that while Adam was undoubtedly stronger, he had yet to access his divine form, while Ares had mastered his eons ago, meaning that when the battle reached the point of Ares going all out, all hopes of Adam winning would be lost, and yet, even with that information, the power Adam was now using, the outer power within him, made me feel like no analytical deduction would really predict the outcome of this battle. Shouldn't you be? I don't know. Helping him. The demon pet Adam kept hissed at me angrily. Learn your place, I glared at her, and to answer your idiotic suggestion, Adam needs to overcome this on his own, otherwise no one will actually follow him into battle. I see, the demon sighed, and I know my place, it's above you. She smiled, sticking her tongue out at me. I know for a fact my master would kill you should anything happen to me under you, so the one that needs to learn its place, it's you. I glared at her, how dare she think I? A god was beneath a mere demon made for pleasuring males, me. The goddess of wisdom and warfare, beneath a talking fleshlight. I am willing to try that theory, I replied, summoning my spear. You won't try anything, Hestia said in a cold tone. She's important to Adam, and therefore it's important to me. Touch her, and I will send Odin after you. Her food is amazing, so I would do it, no hesitation. I'm not even gonna ask what you did wrong, don't care. Odin that had appeared out of nowhere shrugged. Her cropcaker is to die for, the Norse king added, his mouth watering in something akin to anticipation. May I as well join in on this endeavor? Thor, who had also appeared out of nowhere, asked. I am in need of some Hestia Gravlax. See, the demon smiled, everybody loves dear old honey. I retract my previous statement, I reluctantly said. One day Adam would grow bored of his little whore, and she would face the consequences of insulting a goddess. For now, I would ignore her. Chapter 129. The battle had prolonged for more than I had originally expected or wanted to, with each passing second making the god of war a bigger and more prominent threat. Proving that Ares was beyond my previous expectations. His powers had increased beyond my wildest estimates as the battle progressed, and that only intensified once he had fully transformed into his divine form. Now as a 30 feet that behemoth he had both the physical and magical advantage. Go to hell. I cursed as I blasted him away with one of my powerful spells, Mirage of Darkness. The spell was part of the Void chapter, and it created a rift between reality and time itself, shattering for a brief moment the fabric of creating with a dark explosion capable of blasting an entire country. and yet this lethal attack barely pushed him back. I have to admit, kid, Ares grinned, wiping the dripping ichor from his nose with his hand, as he stared right at me, dead in the eyes with mad delight. You have truly become something else. Something worthy of carrying the title of a god. Unfortunately for you, you picked the wrong fight. I grow in conflict as I grow in war. At this he laughed. You will never win against me. The longer this beautiful dance extends, the more powerful I will become, and with each passing second, your doom becomes a reality. I eyed the god of war with an amused expression decorating my face. Nobody thought I would survive Tartarus, yet I did. Nobody thought I would become a god, yet I did. By now you idiots should know. I tend to color out of the lines. I grinned. Where was this confidence coming from? No idea. But I wasn't going to complain. Ares snorted and instantly charged at me, while I kept on a defensive stance, which allowed me a sliver of time to block his blow with my weapon, in the process absorbing the kinetic force of his attack, which so far was the key to my victory. Ares had the power advantage with his bullshitting realm empowering as we kept on fighting, but as Odin had said, when power alone doesn't work, outsmart your enemy. My plan was in a way very simple. In short, my idea was to supercharge my weapon with all the power it could possibly hold by absorbing the physical aspect behind all the attacks Ares was throwing at me, so that I could later release at all once, in a single but devastating blow. Would this kill him? Not sure. He was rather resilient to damage, but it would sure weaken him. This, after all, would be the equivalent of a godly nuke. It had to at least hurt him. My plan B, however, was to try and figure out how to transform into my divine form. So far, all the clues I had was that before transforming they would let all their power out, but that didn't help me at all. Plan C was doing like the Norse gods and somehow finding a way to handle all my power within my current form. Maybe I will have some fun with you after we end this. Ares laughed, throwing his weapon at me. I'd rather die, I muttered, teleporting out of the trajectory of his weapon, just to find Ares had predicted where I was going to appear, and had already moved there to greet me with a knee to the face. I can work with that, Ares chuckled, before he blasted me to a nearby mountain. Then again, if I win, your compliance won't be a factor in anything I do. Was this bitch suggesting he was going to fuck me? Oh hell no. I will enjoy erasing you from the face of the earth, I hissed, my mouth dripping black blood. Wait, what? Why was my blood black? The fuck was going on? Black blood, Ares muttered as he sniffed the air, and the smell, there is no doubt. Your daddy, it's a great one, right? He was, technically correct. I guess. I mean, he guessed the pantheon correctly, but not the rank. My demonic father was above the great ones, at least according to my knowledge. Give the war-sucking bitch a consolation prize. He was right yet wrong, I laughed. So what? Leto fucked one of the priests. Ares laughed. Was it Cthulhu? Oh, please tell it was him. Nyarlathotep, I replied, cutting his laugh short. Well shit, dear old daddy, it's famous. I laughed seeing his reaction. I see, Ares chuckled. I must admit, I didn't see that coming, at all. You know what? I will try it, I chuckled, and seeing Ares' perplexed look on his face I elaborated. I can't hide the fact you have the tactical advantage of power right now, and that the gap between keeps getting larger and larger thanks to your bullshitting realms, so why not try to achieve what you, Dionysus and Priapus did? I mean, if the drunk bastard could, why not me? No matter what you do, it won't change the result, Ares smiled, so why even try? He barked as he pounced at me. I looked at the god approaching, and took a deep breath, remembering everything all the gods I had faced so far did before transforming, how their power had changed from point A to point B, how their mana signatures had morphed in a violent explosion of power. Here goes nothing, I exhaled, letting out a painfully loud scream as my power fluctuated violently. The fuck? Aries stopped dead on his tracks as I cried, almost in pain. Bringing out all the energy I had within me as a blinding green light seemed to emerge from my body, dazzling Aries in shock. Fuck. I continued to scream with my power increasing, and little by little the change occurred, with my body mass starting to double, and in the blink of an eye, my body exploded, reforming into a new form. First try, I'm impressed, Aries whistled, maybe this will be hard after all, like I am for you. I glared at him and tried to retort but no sound came out of my mouth. Taking a deep breath in wild anticipation, I summoned a mirror to see my divine form in all its Lovecraftian glory. Oh fuck, I thought, seeing my reflection, for one. I kinda looked like the Lich King. But instead of the armor, being armor, it was a part of my body, and two. I had no mouth, nor eyes, nor nothing, just the armor, and shadows beneath it, creepy not gonna lie. I have fucked some mutes before, funny how the moan, but never one that was an armored shadow. This should be fun. I wonder where are your holes, Aries grinned. Snapping my fingers I summoned a sign where I magically wrote, just because I managed to do this at my first try. I won't even acknowledge what you just said. I was quite perplexed this had been so easy to achieve. Oh well. Time to see what my max currently is. Pretty impressive indeed, not for me. I was born a god, and that is something all born gods know, but for a second-rate ascended, sure it's an accomplishment. Aries taunted, but I simply ignored him, wondering if not having a mouth was so kind of divine punishment from above. I mean, without a mouth, how would I insult others? I guess I now talk like Wall-E, Coyote, I wonder if I can kill you with something from Acme. I wrote on another sign. Oh well, I guess we will see. I inwardly chuckled, wondering if others would start to call me the mime god. I guess I could learn French. Il pourrait être amusant. Chapter 130. With my newfound power I instantly charged at my foe, shocking the latter who had no choice but to get on a defensive stance, which allowed him to block my attack, but was still pushed back. At this I inwardly smiled as I snapped my fingers creating several fireballs, that all collided with him blasting him to the ground in flames. I then teleported in front of him ready to deliver a few extra attacks, but the god of war blocked my next two blows with his weapon before attempting to counter with a punch of his own, which failed when I grabbed him by the wrist with my left hand deviating the attack while I blasted him with my right hand with a mana attack. Aries, who was sent flying into a nearby mountain, took in another stable defensive stance, angrily exhaling. Things were not going the way he wanted. With a smile that no one could see for my lack of mouth, I quickly continued the assault, teleporting behind him, delivering a horizontal kick, and pushed the god of war to his knees. I had to admit, this power, this divine form was worth it. For the first time in my life I felt no restraint, no problems controlling my power. I felt free. Aries growled from the ground, and tried to stab me with his weapon, but was taken aback by the speed with which I counter his attempt. Snapping my fingers I created a ball of light that exploded with a barrage of powerful blasts, each blast even stronger than the last, making Aries scream in pain and agony. This can't be happening. Aries growled, ichor spilling down his mouth, and I could tell the god of war was quickly becoming overwhelmed by my newfound raw force and speed, and the once aggressive head-on approach he had of taking the bull by the horns was slowly changing to a more conservative approach as he retreated under the onslaught of incoming blows. And here I thought I would actually get to test this new powerful yet very copyrightable new form, I wrote on a sign, as I inwardly chuckled. Aries growled but didn't respond. Was this all the bark the god of war had? Disappointing. To think he would lose all his snark after losing the advantage. Pathetic. Getting cocky, aren't we? Aries managed to finally reply, only to find himself inside a magical prison I had created during the time he took to answer. What is this? Rune prison, I winked at him, before the runes of the prison exploded violently around him, doubling the giant to his knees. They pack quite a punch, don't you think? This can't be. I won't be defeated by a child. Aries growled with uncontrollable anger as he punched the ground, creating seismic movements around the country. I won't be defeated. Not by you. He screamed, jumping high into the air before he blasted full speed my way. With a sigh, I teleported my weapon behind him, and with a playful wink directed to him I snapped my fingers, releasing all the kinetic energy my weapon had been saving so far. The blast blew a hole right through his chest, stopping him dead on his tracks. So I didn't need my divine form to defeat you, good to know. I wrote on a sign as the god of war looked at me in shock for a brief moment, touching his wound in fright. Fuck. Aries muttered a second before he started to descend into the ground, leaving a trail of golden ichor behind him. I eyed the god, wondering how he was still keeping his divine form active while having sustained such heavy damage. But before I had time to ponder over this question, a flash of blinding light answered it, showing a now normal-sized Aries falling to the ground almost dead. Oh well. I had fun, Aries admitted with a smile, coughing golden blood. I died like I lived, to my fullest, he chuckled. I suppose you did, I wrote on a sign as I descended towards him. I know you don't care about your children, but I won't harm them. My war was with the gods, not their children. Well, thanks I guess, Aries laughed. Well kid, be sure to win this shit. I don't want to be the one who loses to the loser, that would be just sad. Well, that's the plan, I wrote. Good, now get on with it. Aries chuckled, I ain't got all day. I think we could have been friends in another life, I admitted as I started to extract his soul and essence. That sounds about right, Aries chuckled.
Goodbye.
Aries, I wrote as his body started to disappear. Give them hell kid, Aries laughed, his body turning to dust. One could say he had the last laugh, I can admire that. Impressive, someone clapped behind me, someone I was too familiar with, Nyarlathotep, my father. Too bad you still don't fully accept your outer heritage. I eyed the outer god for a second, noticing once again he was on his human guise. I decided to write an answer only to be stopped by him. Others can't understand you. But that's because only creatures of the outer can. So try to speak normally. What do you mean I haven't accepted my outer heritage? I said, but instead of words coming out of me, it kinda sounded like hisses and growls. That form, underneath that armor, it's the real you, Nyarlathotep answered. You could say the armor represents your desire to rebel against your father. What a naughty boy. I know that wasn't supposed to sound sexual, but I am leaving, was all I said in response, taking the soul of Aries with me. You want to devour his soul, you know you need it, Nyarlathotep stated, you will need that power. With that he left, leaving me and the soul of Aries alone. This marks the end of part 26 of the story Pērcy Jackson, the God of Magic. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.